The law of supply and demand states that consumers provide demand for product X, not demand for all actions that an industry performs. X in a given market under given circumstances is what is intrinsic and necessary to procure. For example, in a market for avocados, what is intrinsic to procuring avocados is that the supplier must know what an avocado is, where it is located, and must physically obtain the item in order to sell it. These actions or properties are necessary in that given market and are entailed in the procurement of X. If there is a demand for an avocado and a supplier finds it, picks it up, transports it, then stabs someone on the street, we can say that stabbing someone on the street was not intrinsic or necessary to procure avocados. Therefore, I am unconvinced the consumer bears accountability for the stabbing, however, the supplier bears full responsibility.
The idea is that getting animal product doesn't necessarily harm or kill animals, and because of that, it's not immoral to buy those products. The consumer wants a product, and that product doesn't demand animals to be harmed or killed, so the consumer is not morally accountable on how the supplier procured the product. Even if we put it in the human context, it makes sense.
Imagine that James is in a town square, placing $1,000 on a table and states that anybody who brings him a yellow shirt will get the money. The first man buys the shirt from a nearby store to sell back to James. A second man starts stitching a yellow shirt to sell to James. A third man goes to a home, kills all of its residents, and robs them of a yellow shirt. I don't see a reason to blame James for the actions of the third man simply by providing demand for a yellow shirt because harm was not intrinsic in procuring a yellow shirt. However, if James went to a town square and declared he is willing to pay $1,000 for the eyeball of Kim Kardashian, I do see a reason to blame James if the supplier satisfies his demand because, in present circumstances, taking the eyeball of Kim Kardashian entails unnecessary harm.
We can even go with this example. Making an iPhone doesn't require poor working conditions and child labor. So if I buy one, I'm not morally blameworthy for the labor violations of the supplier. Even vegans use this reasoning.
And it's not intrinsically exploitative to grow tomatoes. There's no... Even though we don't have to kill animals for tomatoes.
Even though you know that if you go to buy tomatoes at the grocery store, lots of animal deaths had to happen. And that was the same argument you were making with Phil earlier.
Yeah, we recognize that animal and insect deaths may have happened, but it is not part of the food product itself. What we want are tomatoes.
Vegans are going to fight this point to the death because not buying animal product is a big thing in veganism. If they concede this, their veganism would completely fall apart. We can also make an additional argument which says the blame for the harm of animals in the future is not on the consumers, because the suppliers are deciding what they are going to do with the money. When I buy animal products, it's not that I want animals to get harmed or die. Neither me paying for animal products will necessarily lead to animals getting harmed or dying. I just want products which are already there.
What we want are tomatoes.
What people do with that money further is not my problem. Whoever is in charge and has that money can use it to fund animal slaughter or to transform their businesses into vegan businesses. That's up to them and not me. So when we add all of this together, I don't see on what grounds I can be blameworthy for harm of some animals in the future.
Imagine that James is in a town square, placing $1,000 on a table.
Philip's yellow shirt analogy is disanalogous. A more apt analogy would be as follows. James has $1,000 to give to someone who is the first to provide him with a yellow shirt. Upon realizing that the third person murdered an entire family for that shirt, he decides to keep giving that third person money when he could instead just as easily give it to the person who sewed the shirt themselves. Now can James be held morally culpable for the murder of that family? There are a number of reductios you could offer. For example, just replace the animals with humans. Is Philip still okay with it? What if you had the choice between purchasing an apple from a little family farm where everyone's treated wonderfully and paid handsomely, or purchasing it from an apple company that skins babies alive and sets them on fire, and you're aware that these things happen and the apples are of equal quality and price? Is purchasing the baby killer apple not immoral because killing those babies isn't intrinsic to the process of apple production?